booties for black girl nerds.
Great afternoon to both of you. Thank you for your time. Beautiful, rich story. There was so many wonderful things to connect with, beautiful performances. Beginning with you, Toni. A lot of times we, as parents, have children who want to step beyond the shadow, a large shadow that the parent may cast, while still trying to maintain that connection. And looking at how your character and Joss struggled with that during the course of the series was really, really beautiful. When you were connecting with the role to embody it, what did you look to, or what type of roles influenced you throughout your career that where you examined maybe parental relationships and the
Oh my God, this is a very big question. It's going on and on. Hang on a minute. There's so much to take in. We just came out of a lunch break. I would have slapped myself to be able to listen. Look, I think I always gravitate towards stories about family and belonging and growth and moving past what you've inherited and moving beyond trauma, moving beyond what you've gained from your parents or what you know, somehow developing what you never got at all, and creating your own sense of family and safety. This show is so epic and about so many things. It was an absolute delight to receive the invitation to become the part of an already incredibly established cast, so talented and so brilliant. They'd already shot a lot of it, so I was lucky enough to see a bunch of it and not just read the fantastic scripts. But you know, it's ultimately a show about inclusivity and equality, and these are important subject matters to me and to a lot of people in the world these days. There's so much that in the show that aligns with what we're going through as a species. So it's really exciting to work on something that's important and meaningful.
Absolutely. John,
I second the emotion.
You gave me my whole life with the Tribe Called Quest, by the way, because that is for sure my era. Loved all of that. Love seeing you rap along with that. And then, you know, on the flip side of that, there's a parent that can be more present sometime to kind of help the youth navigate all of that. With your relationship with your TV children, you know, what was the most satisfying about bringing that character to life for you?
Well, I mean, there was a lot to find joy in this character playing Rob Cleary-Lopez, because it's an opportunity I don't really get usually, to be vulnerable and nurturing kind of a dude. I'm always kind of more like a rough, tough kind of guy. So this was fun to work with Toni and have a real complex relationship and a really interesting, sophisticated marriage, and then to be a parent to these TV kids who were like also growing up with me, because it took 3 years. When they started, they were 3 years younger. So I got to actually be sort of their TV parent and their off-screen between takes parent, you know. And we got close. We got very close, you know, and I started feeling kind of nurturing towards them, about teaching them about this acting biz, that it is a biz sometimes. And so those things started to blend a little bit, and it helped. I think it helped the on-screen relationships.
They are wrapping me. This is a beautiful, beautiful show. Thank you for your time.
I'm so glad you like it. Thank you so much.
You could tell.
Good afternoon or good morning, everyone. I had to remember where I was. Well, I thank you for your time. It's fascinating with series like this and thinking of what is being centered on young ladies and the trials and tribulations of what they go through naturally, while kind of this sinister tone of not knowing, the audience not knowing exactly what's happening. Raelle, beginning with you, the series is based on works. How do you manage the balance between staying true to the source material but making it presentable for a wide range of audience to appreciate?
Yeah, I have a feeling about adaptation, which is if it's not broken, don't fix it. So I think that people who love the book are going to be really happy, because I feel like we very much stuck to the essence of Naomi Alderman's book all the way through. It's very faithful in that way. Also, it really helped to work with the author. Naomi Alderman was really involved in the show all the way through. And so whatever changes we made with her blessing. That makes a tremendous difference. I think in terms of the challenge is you've got a global show with, 6 main characters across the world, and they're all in their own individual stories. And at first, it doesn't really seem that they connect immediately. But what you're trying to do is build this gradual magnetic pull that's drawing these characters closer and closer together throughout the show in a propulsive way, in a way that makes you just wonder, when are they going to meet? How are they going to meet? What happens when they do? And sort of leaving the audience wanting more. That is a really difficult structural thing to do. It's kind of like putting together a massive puzzle. And I will say, for the last 2 years, my brain has expanded and is still hurting from taking all these disparate pieces and making them a part of something that hopefully everyone will stay through to see how cohesive it ends up being.
With that, Jane, over to you. With marrying like these individuals that are in these different places, as Raelle mentioned, cinematically, it's gorgeous. 1 minute you're in Africa, and 1 minute you're in the States, and all these places. How did you choose the aesthetics? Maintaining true to the source material, but it's so big and beautiful and colorful, and just making sure it was cohesive back again to the source.
Yeah, I think it was very important to us that it felt authentic and a grounded real world that we recognize. So even though, and our world is colorful and is beautiful and is extraordinary, so it's actually not hard to make it look that way. So it needed to feel authentic, and we were able, because Amazon supported us to do this, to film in countries around the world, but we were able to execute that really, really well. So you see that a lot of Allie's scenes take place in Vancouver and also in South Africa, and the light there is extraordinary. So we were able to use that and make everything look beautiful. Tatiana's story takes place in Eastern Europe. We shot most of that in London, in an incredible, beautiful old building that we art directed into this incredible palace for her. And I think getting those HODs who love the subject as much as us and really believed in the project and wanted to do their best work is always the thing. Work with the best people, and you get something beautiful at the end of it.
It's absolutely gorgeous. Naomi, I'm so sorry. They are giving me the pull, but thank you so much, ladies, for your time. It is a beautiful, beautiful series, and I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Oh, thank
Thank
you so
you
much
so
for
much.
watching.
Well, I thank you all. I'm Deandra from Black Girl Nerds, and I thank you all. Congratulations on this beautiful, big, bright, just epic series. It's so visually beautiful. The story is so rich. And I loved what all of you brought to it individually, and then ultimately where the story goes. So Auli'i, beginning with you, and did I say your name correctly?
Auli'i.
Auli'i. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I thought a lot about as we are young ladies and we grow up in the power and stepping into knowing who we are outside of our parents, especially when our families cast a big shadow. That we have to step beyond. So what can you say about Joss and self-discovery, and what your own personal thoughts about stepping beyond a big shadow of our families, parents, ambitions, etc.?
That's so well said. Joss is the daughter of Mayor Cleary-Lopez, and unfortunately, I think that's part of Joss's true identity. It's not that my mom is Margot. My mom is Mayor Cleary-Lopez, and she has to be so careful and I think minimize herself to not make waves in her mom's political career. But she also feels a little slighted by her mom. So much of her time is taken away from that mother and daughter relationship. And Joss is just coming into her own. She's going through high school. She's experiencing first love, and she doesn't have a mom figure to talk about all these big feelings to, and yet in an interview or in any type of outward press situation, everything has to be happy-go-lucky. I'm so proud of you. I'm so grateful for you. Like, go, Mom. And the feelings inside are often very different. So I think we see that with Joss, of just the teenage angst, and that is what it's rooted in. And figuring out who do I want to be in the future is such a big question that I haven't even answered yet, and and Joss is 17 in our series. So to add the power to that mix, the world is changing rapidly around her. And everyone is looking to Mayor Cleary-Lopez, my mom, for support.
I think about that with my own. I have a child who's my age and she sees the job and it's like, who am I beyond my mom's job too? So very relatable in that. Edwina, over to you for Helen. With being a young lady, there is a sort of stepping into our power, knowing who we are, because we are very different beings from our male counterparts and the things that come with it in addition into establishing your own identity. So what thought or what is this inner discussions for Helen of just that own self-discovery?
Yeah. I mean, I think over the course of the series, Helen begins to find her own voice, right? I think at the beginning, she really, has committed herself to supporting Margot, to lifting her up, to trying to make sure that she's making the right decisions, that she understands the repercussions of certain things. But I think as the story progresses, Helen begins to step into her own power, her own agency, her own ability to take charge, to be able to see things that are ahead and lead, right? And in some ways, she's leading Margot, as far as this is the direction that we must go in. And what I love is that we're in a season now where I think more women are doing that, are discovering different and new aspects of agency in themselves and saying, you know what? I have observations, I have thoughts, I have ideas. Maybe they shouldn't just lie in wait. Maybe I should go out front and bring others with me. And then, of course, in the political sphere, we've got this, fabulous new vice president and that happened as we were filming, right? We're filming and then history is made with the first African-American female vice president of the United States. And even for me as an actor, as well as an African-American woman, as well as playing Helen, this was all a part, all played into my development of this role and going on a journey as far as Helen coming into her own.
And Haley, lastly, for you, there's a certain level of fear when you have your own discovery into who you are and then new talents and gifts reveal themselves. It can be very frightening, especially when you're young. Is the journey of her one of fear, or is it one of liberation because her situations have been so difficult surrounding her life?
Wow, yeah. I would say it's of liberation because, of course, Allie is this young girl and she's already in this traumatic situation to where she is scared. And then when she gets this power, she doesn't know where it came from. She's thinking, am I the only one with it? Who else has it? Where did it come from? What is going on with me? And then honestly, I feel like at first she's afraid with it, but then the voice guides her and teaches her on how to use it. And the power is somewhat of a symbol of freedom for Allie, because when she first uses the power, she's using it to take control of her body again for when she is surviving a brutal attack in this abusive home. So I would say it's freedom of liberation. Yeah, she's using it to get free.
Thank you, ladies. They are wrapping me. Your characters are so beautiful and rich. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Wonderful to meet you.
Thank you for your time today. I appreciate it.
Of course. Nice to meet you.
Oh,
To meet you as well. Naomi, can you hear me?
I think you just froze there for a second, but carry on.
Oh, it is a pleasure to be with you. When I spoke to Raelle and Jane and Naomi earlier, they spoke of fans of the book will be very happy because the series is true to the essence. So beginning with you, Naomi, what is the feeling okay with letting go of certain elements to be built out further for us, the audience, to enjoy when there's already a connection to the original material?
Well, I think I got about half that question, but I feel I understand what the question was. So for me, this has been a really just amazing journey. I've been working with an incredible group of people here. I mean, Raelle, the showrunner, she's just a genius. She has really understood the essence of the source material exactly as we say. And you know, I've also been involved. I'm an executive producer on the show. I wrote the pilot, so I've been in it from the start and all the way through. So for me, it's been an experience of having really a deep, long conversation, a very enjoyable conversation about my own work, and coming to, in some ways, a deeper and richer understanding of my own work by talking to actors who come from the background of the character, by talking to writers who come from that world, and being able to go, oh, now I've understood my own characters in a different way.
Tim, over to you. The series explores so many wonderful themes of self-discovery, knowing your own power, you know, how dreams affect us, what our parents, our families' expectations for what they think we should do versus what we want to do. So many beautiful things. Of all the wonderful topics that are explored, what did you find most enjoyable to see, you know, brought to life?
I think besides the sort of production challenges of it, of creating all these different worlds, I do think what you'll respond to as a viewer most are the character journeys. And some of them are really moving. You know, Roxy in particular, you know, she is underestimated and is desperate for her father's approval. And her mother is killed and her power kicks in just too late. So there's a kind of tragedy to her story, and Ria plays it so brilliantly. And, you know, for me, that's one of the most sort of wonderful pieces of drama that I've ever worked on, just following her journey through the series. She's great in it.
Thank you, Giandra LaBeouf, Black Girl Nerds. Hi, guys. Thank you for your time. I appreciate
Hello.
it.
I think both of us heard Black Girl Nerd.
And we're like,
represent for all the nerds out there. All the nerds out there. Well, I thank you guys for your time. I enjoyed this. I found a lot of things to connect to, lots of different storylines, particularly with the two of you having a dream, sharing a dream and ambitions, and when it gets co-opted by other people and their ambitions and all of those things. Heather, beginning with you, it is a challenge, particularly for us as Black people, when we have a dream that's outside of the norm or the expectations that our families have for us, particularly when you share it with others. So can you speak to me about Ndudi's having this dream of being a journalist and telling these stories and having that sort of interrupted or deferred by these outside forces?
Yeah, I think particularly in the Nigerian climate, I think there is a thing about corruption and taking things that Ndudi really wants to investigate and uncover the truth. I think it's a reflection of, for me, what's happening in Nigeria right now. The youth is very politically engaged and really intelligent in that discovery. So I was really trying to think about how Nigerian youth respond to kind of power right now. So I was really thinking about how sometimes these situations get focused on the global north and get ignored on the continent. So Ndudi's always thinking about, but what's happening in Nigeria? What's happening with the Black community in Nigeria? Everybody else will be sorted out. What's happening here? So I think it's about like ownership and agency of what's happening in her own continent. That feels really important to depict, I think.
Toheeb, over for you for Tunde. Sometimes it takes others to find their path and their dream and what they want to accomplish. Sometimes it's influenced by other people. And there's a kind of a difficulty in figuring out where the dream belongs to me and where it was influenced by someone else. With Tunde, at what point does he discover that, you know, this is true to him, this is something that he wants?
I think very early on, like, we find a Tunde that's very much influenced by outside voices, and he hasn't quite found his true self and found his, you know, true power. He's working for his dad. He wants to be a journalist. He doesn't, you know, he can't do it because his dad doesn't want him to do it. And he's very much, you know, like you said, living that life of, I have a dream, but that dream is outside of the norms of what of what, you know, the world around me wants for me, the older people in my life want for me. And so that's the Tunde that we meet starting off. And then this traumatic incident happens between the two of them. He stumbles upon this story and, you know, thinks he's doing right by his best friend by, you know, pursuing it and going after it. And in the complicated mess of all of that, in the complexity of his and Ndudi's relationship, he finds his purpose, you know. And, you know, it takes somebody looking him in the eye and saying, be your own person, be your own man, and do whatever the hell you want to do for him to find his thing. And once he does, he's off. And, you know, there's something really powerful about, you know, a young man finding his purpose and you know, like just being really dogged with it and going after it. And, you know, Tunde puts himself in some really dangerous situations on the quest of truth and, you know, like, following his curiosity, and I think there's something really magical about that. So yeah, it's been a wild ride watching him figure all of that stuff out, but it's a really interesting one, and I hope people see themselves in it.
Absolutely. The pursuit of truth can be a daunting one. And
100%. Yeah.
Thank you guys. They are wrapping me up. Wonderful performances, very rich characters. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Chandra, Black Girl Nerds. Hi, you guys. Thank you for your time.
Hi. Hello.
It's a pleasure to be with you. I enjoyed your portion of the world very, very much. Very relatable when the parents' expectations exceed or in a different direction from where you want to go. Beginning with you, Zrinka, sometimes cruelty or just the overbearing ideas of a parent can give birth to a greater beast when the child becomes an adult. How were those early years? How did they shape who Tatiana ultimately becomes?
Oh, they shaped her 100% because she lived as a kid in a home where there's no love, protection, or any understanding. She was not allowed to eat, you know, as much as she wanted. She was not allowed to speak for herself. I mean, it's a form of abuse, I would say. And having to know the only type of living and life like that, like without love at first, I mean, it forms you forever.
Ria, over to you. For Roxy, there's just this battle for acceptance, and there's acceptance in society, acceptance within our families. How do you think that a person can keep that from making them either going down the bad path or being a more warm and loving? Like, where's the fine line between being able to set that aside and really step into who you ultimately want to be?
Ooh, good question. I think Roxy is someone who, you know, she's desperate to be part of this man's world and to be accepted by her father. And I think that there's like, I think that's what motivates her throughout the whole series. And there's this scene where, you know, Bernie says that he, now with his new daughter-in-law, he has a daughter to call his own, which I think is just like a massive, massive blow for Roxy. And I feel like that she is, that's what's motivating her throughout it. And, you know, she does do questionable things, but I think that you do kind of root for her as well.
For you, for Bernie, like the way you brought Bernie to life, it was interesting in that he's this firm businessman, and he's not exactly cruel, but there is sort of a sinister quality to him. How does that personality rub off on his children? He has his sons, he has Roxy, who's so desperate for attention. You know, how does he sort of change his emotions as it relates to his different children?
Well, on the surface, he's a very powerful and successful man, but underneath he's a very traumatized man. And the main emotional quality that he has is one of fear and also anxiety. So he's not he doesn't respond to situations, he reacts to situations. Everything that he describes to Roxy in the wedding scene, He's talking about himself. Roxy and Bernie are basically the same person, but just with different genders. That's all. And when she begins to gain the power, he instinctively thinks of how he can utilize it for his own purposes.
Absolutely. Well, I thank you. They are wrapping me up. This is a beautiful, rich series, and I loved all your performances. Thank
That's
you.
very kind.
Better shake your booties for black girl nerds. Better shake your booties for black girl nerds.